going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. It is currently about 6 in the morning. I just finished watching both the new Mortal Kombat movie as well as the final episode in what I'm hoping is the first season of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So since it's pretty late for my time and for your time, and since I put out a lot of videos this past week, I figured I'm just gonna jam pack this into one video. Not really something I usually do, but I'm going to be doing it just because, again, for the sake of time, and it's already pretty early in the morning. Woke up at 3, watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and just finished with Mortal Kombat. So, going to be starting with Mortal Kombat, completely spoiler-free, no spoilers in this at all. However, when I get to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I will be touching on spoilers, as I have on all the other previous episodes. It's a little bit easier to talk about that show with spoilers, but for this movie right here, Mortal Kombat, I know you guys are probably excited for it, hopefully, and I don't want to spoil it at all for anybody. So yeah, if you guys watched my reviews that I did for the first and second Mortal Kombat just recently, you know that the second one, terrible. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure. It's so bad it's good kind of thing for me. But the first one is a movie that I like, even though it's not good. There's a lot about it that's really bad. There's definitely a it's so bad it's good quality to that movie as well. But overall, really enjoy that movie just because of my upbringing, and it kind of, I feel like, embodies Mortal Kombat of the time, of the mid-90s, you know? And I also just talked about the fact that Mortal Kombat has just been a huge part of my life. I played every single one of the games. I've watched all the movies and the old Legends, Mortal Kombat Legends, I believe is what it's called, like the online miniseries kind of thing. And the only thing I haven't seen as of recent is the animated Scorpion movie that came out not too long ago. So definitely want to check that out. But how is the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie? Well, I had a lot of fun with it. I found it to be a really good time as a longtime Mortal Kombat fan. And I want to really emphasize that because I feel like after the movie, I really gave it some thought. And I feel like the movie has some issues, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I think this is a movie that's going to work for Mortal Kombat fans specifically, and I think a lot of other people are going to be introduced to Mortal Kombat through this and be really engaged and find it to be pretty cool. But I also do recognize while watching it that this movie probably won't entice everybody who's never really played Mortal Kombat, doesn't really have any attachment to these characters. And a big reason for that is because the game really centers on the idea of the players fighting each other over and over and over again, being able to use the same character if you want to, and at the end of usually all those fights or throughout it, you're brutally just wounding each other and killing each other. Hence the famous phrase, fatality. So yeah, this movie definitely leans a lot more into what Mortal Kombat is all about as far as what the video games have done. I think that this movie had a lot more source material to work on, and did what a lot of those other games do sometimes, and kind of took creative liberties and took things in a new direction. We have seen the Mortal Kombat canon and narrative rebooted in various installments of the game, or different games that kind of have a different approach to telling the story. Same characters, same basic gist, but the characters all kind of start in different places. Different characters kind of instigate different things, and so this movie is similar to that, where it is its own story with characters that longtime fans of the franchise will be familiar with. Overall, costume design, phenomenal. The choreography for the fights, awesome. CGI and practical effects as well, all really solid. Really enjoyed all the action, the visuals of this film. As a longtime Mortal Kombat fan, this is the definitive Mortal Kombat movie. I have a lot of love for that original one, but this is what Mortal Kombat is more in line with. And I mentioned it in my review for the first one. That one was working on pretty limited source material, whereas today we've had so many Mortal Kombat movies since the last, 2 decades, more than 2 decades since that last movie came out, or the first movie. And, they have so many more games, so much more story that's been added on that they can play off of, and that definitely benefited this film. I think, again, the biggest issue that this film had for me, looking back at it, just having watched it, is I think that because of the nature of this game series and the whole idea of consistent fights that end in these pretty brutal deaths, you do have a lot of fan favorite characters, because this franchise is loaded with fan favorite characters who do end up dying in the film, and it feels kind of premature, but again, it's just kind of the nature of the game. And so in a game you can just restart and you're playing as the same character again, whereas with a movie and a story like this, if you're gonna kind of stay true to that, some of these characters are gonna have to die. And so I feel like my biggest issue with the movie, looking back at it, was a sense of character development for a lot of the characters. there are a lot of characters who show up, and if you're a longtime fan like myself, you're able to kind of come into it with more than the movie I feel really offers for new time viewers who have never seen Mortal Kombat before or are not really familiar with the games or anything like that. Overall though, I think that this is a really great martial arts action movie. It has a lot to offer. I think if you're a fan of action movies in and of itself and you don't really play video games or you're not really into Mortal Kombat, I think this is a good entry point for a lot of people. It leaves things wide open for a sequel, so I'm very curious to check that out. I really enjoyed the incorporation of the classic Mortal Kombat theme in the score at different points. And yeah, visually, action-wise, performance-wise, I think this movie was really, really solid. I just think the story could have used another once-over to really kind of tighten things up and maybe develop a lot of these characters a lot more. I think ultimately there are going to be fans who are disappointed to see certain characters taken out so early in the franchise. When I actually just saw an article today saying, or yesterday saying that one of the actors, specifically I think the actor who plays Sub-Zero, was kind of casted or put in his contract that he can return for up to 4 more sequels if this movie is a success, which I have a feeling it will be, and I have to imagine a lot of the other cast members also have the same contract because you can see it in this movie that they're definitely leading up to sequels, you know what I mean? And yeah, this movie does a good job of having little hints and nods at other characters that maybe in this version of the story, came before, kind of hinting at various characters from various games. I think if you're a longtime fan, you're going to pick up on a lot of those things. Sometimes it's visual reference, sometimes it's in dialogue. There's tons of little moments that definitely make reference to the game community, to maybe things that people do in fights, whether it's through the fights, whether it's through the dialogue, whether it's through visual reference. I think overall they did a really good job of really appeasing the fans and making something that has a lot of fan service while also telling its own story and just kind of being a fun Mortal Kombat film. But again, I think just the nature of Mortal Kombat and the way that this movie was put together, I couldn't help but feel like they maybe could have developed a lot of the characters a little bit more, at least some of them, because there are characters I think that sometimes just kind of feel jumbled into the story, and you can definitely follow along and enjoy all the characters like I did, but as a longtime fan, I couldn't help but feel like maybe I'm adding more to this because I know these characters than I think the movie, again, is offering for new time viewers. So yeah, overall thoughts, really enjoyed Mortal Kombat. I hope you do too, but I definitely can see if this movie doesn't work for everybody. So that's my general thoughts. One last thing I do want to mention is about the character of Cole Young, played by Lewis Tan. He is kind of the entryway for characters or people in this movie. He is the entryway character is what I meant to say. And for me, he was a brand new character. And when the first trailer came out, it was a bit of a controversial thing because, he was a brand new character, and yeah, people were kind of worried that he was gonna kind of just feel weird and kind of tacked on in a franchise that already has so many established main characters and just characters in general. But I think he really stood his own. I think sometimes he does get jumbled into kind of being part of this whole ensemble cast. He is the main character, but sometimes he doesn't feel like it. But overall, I thought he kind of stood his own ground. It was kind of an interesting character, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with his character moving forward. I can totally see his character making an appearance in the video games moving forward, especially now with Mortal Kombat having so many cameos in the game from various movie characters. I can only imagine that they're actually going to take a character from the Mortal Kombat movie and add him into a future game or a DLC or something like that. So yeah, overall, I thought Cole Young was a cool character. I just think that his character was kind of there to kind of take in all the expository dialogue. There is a lot of really exposition heavy scenes, and again, that's just for the casual audience mainly who has no idea what's happening. And obviously it has to tell its own story, but I think at the end of the day, there's definitely a lot of moments like that that definitely are trying to speak to the people who have no idea what Mortal Kombat is, so that they can kind of get a refresher before they get into the meat and potatoes of the film. So overall, I wish there was a little bit more character development. There's a lot of characters that are just kind of thrown in just to kind of be a caricature, and they're cool, they have some great moments, everybody kind of has their moment, but a lot of them are taken out fairly early on in the movie or in their screen time overall. And yeah, I did kind of wish that some of these characters would have lasted a little bit longer, but there's a lot of Mortal Kombat characters that were hinted at or teased or just were not in this movie at all, and I can't imagine that they're not going to use them in future films. So yeah, Mortal Kombat 2021, I highly do recommend it. It's on HBO Max and in theaters, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's go ahead and switch gears over to the final episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is going to be your spoiler warning. I'm going to be getting straight into my thoughts on this final episode of what I'm hoping, again, is the first first season of this show. And overall, what I could say about it right out of the gate is I love this episode. Found it to be probably my favorite episode so far in the whole series. And yeah, one thing I didn't mention in last week's episode that I wanted to talk about was Joaquin Torres, I believe is his name. He's a Hispanic guy that's working with Sam at the beginning of the season, and we see him throughout. Sam gave him his wings in the last episode because they're broken off. He's like, you can just keep them, and didn't even catch it that that's the same guy who plays like a new version of the Falcon in the comic books. That's kind of like a sidekick to Falcon when he becomes Captain America. And speaking of which, this episode opens up right out of the gate, and we get to see Falcon, Sam in the actual comic book accurate Captain America Falcon outfit. And man, this episode was just jam-packed with action. It did a really good job of resolving everything that's been happening in the season thus far, as well as introducing new elements and kind of setting characters up for what's going to be coming in the future of the MCU for these characters, whether it's with this series or with more movies. Yeah, I think anybody who's chosen to skip out on the Disney Plus MCU stuff is definitely going to be missing out when they get into the movies and stuff like this has happened, you know what I mean? So being able to see Anthony Mackie in that classic Falcon's Captain America suit was really, really great. He looks great in the suit. It looked really awesome, very comic book accurate, and definitely has its own bells and whistles that are different, in this iteration. Action was really, really great. Started off with a great action set piece between Falcon and George St. Pierre's character. Really enjoyed all of that. You have everything going on with Karli, and you have these various senators who are kind of at risk. You have Winter Soldier and Sharon Carter working together to try to stop Karli, Morgenthau, and the Flag Smashers and everything that's going on there. And then in the mix of all of it, you also have John Walker coming in to actually team up with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And yeah, I really enjoyed this episode because we get to see Sam take on the mantle of Captain America and him finally wearing it proudly, you know what I mean? And near the end of the episode, he gives a really great Captain America speech, that really challenges different people's views, you know what I mean? And that's something I really enjoy about this show, is that it hasn't really dealt with anything being black and white, you know what I mean? There's always a gray area, and kind of showing how on one side somebody can appear as an extremist, and on the other end, they kind of viewed as a hero, and it just depends on which side you're standing on. And I think that this show has done a good job, even in really subtle ways, of showing that. And I think that the way that they handle it in this episode, again, is really, really solid. So really enjoyed that whole element. Karli Morgenthau does end up dying in this episode by Sharon Carter's hand, and George St. Pierre's character ends up dying by Sharon Carter's hand as well. We do learn that she is in fact the power broker, and there's a post-credit scene with Sharon Carter at the end of the episode kind of showing us that she's gotten the pardon that she's wanted, and that she's still kind of involved in some sort of nefarious activities. So definitely curious to see where they take that moving forward, again, whether with this show or with the MCU overall. As for Bucky, there's a lot of really great moments with him as far as mainly action. Yeah, at the very end of the episode, we finally get to see him go back to the older gentleman whose son he killed in the past as the Winter Soldier. And I really enjoyed that he finally got to go do that. It was something that I was really looking forward to since the first episode of the season. But I feel like they kind of rushed that for me. Like, that was something I was really looking forward to. And at the end of the day, it was really more about Bucky kind of making amends and moving on. But I felt like they really cemented that relationship in the first episode. And in this episode, it kind of just felt like, here, I killed your son. And then they kind of just skip past it. And it's supposed to be like, got that off my shoulders. Whereas I feel like I really wanted to see that conversation play out. I wanted to see that bond. And so that's something I was definitely curious about moving forward when it was coming into this episode, and I just think that it kind of disappointed me just a little bit. I feel like the payoff there wasn't as strong as I was hoping for. But, overall, I do like where the characters left off. I do really like to be able to see that by the beginning of this season and by the end of it now, both Bucky and Sam are very different characters. They've gone through some stuff. John Walker kind of redeems himself a little bit. I think what I really enjoy about the character of John Walker is that he means well. He always really has in the comics and everything as well. He's just kind of gets overboard. He has this ego, you know what I mean? Especially when he had the role of Captain America. But in this episode, he finally takes on the mantle of actually the U.S. agent. I've been calling him that every episode so far. And so very excited to see the U.S. agent costume. And I'm very curious to see where they take him moving forward. I think Wyatt Russell has done a great job playing in the role. Anthony Mackie has been great. Sebastian Stan has been great. Everybody in this series has been great. I love the way it's tied into things like Black Panther and Infinity War and Endgame, and the Captain America films in and of themselves. Very curious to see where they go moving forward. Near the end of the episode, we do see that what it seems like it appeared to be that the Flag Smashers were killed, or the last of the super soldiers, by Baron Zemo's hand. We'll definitely see. He's currently right now on the Raft, which is that ocean prison that they have the Avengers in, or a portion of the Avengers in Captain America Civil War. So I'm very curious to see how that all ties in, when we'll see Zemo again. And overall, I really thoroughly enjoyed, again, being able to see Sam take on the mantle, really challenging Isaiah Bradley and what he said in the previous episode, essentially about like no self-respecting black man would take on the mantle. And for him, it's more about, you know, taking what people have done in the past, you know, the fight of the past, and holding, you know, kind of carrying the torch and moving forward with it. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that element. I really enjoyed the statue element at the end with Isaiah Bradley, where we get to see that they've added a piece of his history now to the Captain America museum. Really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really good emotional moment. And there's a really great moment near the end. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but there's a really great moment near the end of the action where Falcon ends up saving the senators that are in this truck that's going to fall down. And there's this black gentleman that goes, "Hell yeah, that's the Black Falcon." And then you have this other guy off to the side that goes, "Nah, that's Captain America." A little bit cheesy, but I loved it. You know what I mean? I feel like I really enjoyed the way that Anthony Mackie just kind of held himself in this episode, the way he carried himself, and you know, wore the Captain America outfit just 100% proudly. I thought it was really solid, really believed it, was really invested, and I really look forward to seeing what they do with these characters moving forward. So that's going to wrap up this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys enjoyed both Falcon and the Winter Soldier, this final episode, and Mortal Kombat. If you only stuck around for one of these reviews, or maybe stuck around for both, who knows? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit that like button if you guys did. Really helps the channel out. But definitely comment your thoughts on Mortal Kombat, on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Where do you think both of those franchises are going to go moving forward? I know this is a very different kind of video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely comment those thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.